Automatic projection.
There's Adam, there's Donovan, just like I promised. I watched all of the Boroughs on Netflix this week, which got a small amount of buzz, likely due to it being produced by the Duffer Brothers. Those are the guys who created and wrote most of Stranger Things. In fact, this has been called Stranger Things in a retirement community, and that's fair at first, but it did morph into a lot more than that after an episode.
Do you recommend it?
I really enjoyed it a lot. My first thought of that it was awfully predictable, but that was just episode 1. That changes to many degrees, and it really doesn't even matter after the second, third, and fourth episodes progress. It's because it's a show that understands quite well that its leads are older, and all of that entails. There's a hint that it's dealing with aging as trauma, but as aging is probably a little bit more like aging as something as cosmic. I thought that was okay. It did that on a generic kind of level. But the best thing it has going for it is that it's large cast, and they're all very interesting and likable as characters. Dennis O'Hare, he is a classic that guy. You don't recognize the name, but he steals every scene he's in. All of these actors are really good. They're all that guy and that lady type of actors. Melina, Alfre Woodard, Dennis O'Hare, I mentioned. Clark Peters and Bill Pullman. That's the main cast. I'm sorry, Gina Davis is also in this cast. And it's actually funny at times. And if you watch it, you'll have a favorite character. It's one of those kinds of shows.
Well, and Alfred Molina is not just that guy.
He's not.
He was Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man, too.
And a very good role for him. He's not that guy, but he's also the lead, probably.
Right.
I love Clark Peters.
Do you really?
I
Say
do.
more. I didn't think anybody would really catch his name.
You're talking about of HBO fame
Yeah.
and The Wire, and he was. I think you can make the argument that he's as much of a lead as there is in Treme.
Which I didn't watch. You did.
I love Treme. I think it's great.
He's fantastic in this. Very funny.
And that's interesting that it's an aging thing because Treme has been out long enough now, but I won't say too much, but it is a guy who is maybe Katrina comes at a time when if he were a younger man, he would have been physically able to respond in a different way than he is at that point in life. And that kind of plays out over the seasons. I just think anytime he pops up in something, like he's in episode 1 of True Detective season 1. He plays the pastor of the church that they go to check in on.
Okay.
And I thought, one, if he is somehow tied to any nefarious deeds, I can't handle it because I like him so much. But that's also a great, almost like HBO insider joke. We got him, and now you guys think that this character is more important than it actually ended up being. He's amazing when he's on screen, but you're like, how could you not use Clark Peters more than you did? But it's good, especially at that time, a good fake out. Anyway, sorry, I've digressed here.
No, I encouraged that because I was flabbergasted that you recognized him by his name, by his actor, his actual name. Yeah, that he gets ample screen time here, and he's great. On the flip side of that, I also dove into the new season of the AMC Plus series, The Terror. The first 2 seasons were on AMC. This one's only on AMC Plus, and I kind of see why. It's subtitled Devil in Silver. It's based off a novel of the same name by Victor LaValle.
The second Victor LaValle TV series we've looked at here.
That's right.
The man's having a moment, I suppose.
Yeah, he did the novel that The Changeling is based on from Apple TV. Devil in Silver, though, has a good cast, too. It stars Dan Stevens, Stephen Root, Marin Ireland, Judith Light, Asif Manvi, excuse me, let me get the pronunciation right. But I'm kind of convinced Dan Stevens is not a good actor. Is that fair?
Based on this, or just...
Based on this and Legion and a couple other things I've seen him in. I just don't think he's convincing.
I liked him in Legion.
Yeah, I know you did.
I liked him a lot, yeah.
Are you just seeking out more ways to have Stephen Root on your television week to week right now?
Stephen Root. He is a joy to watch.
Isn't he?
But speaking of Devil and Silver, the first episode had some trite moments, but it was interesting enough. And the 4 episodes that are all streaming, they're mostly interesting, but they're just not as good as that first season, which was a spectacle of a show.
I love the first season.
Yeah, it was really
Yep.
good.
I feel like that's
And
like
dark.
that's some dude's TV.
Probably.
A certain kind of dude. And I'm not saying that Natalie really enjoyed it as well, but in the same way that if you ask a certain part of the population about Master and Commander, they kind of they physically light up.
But are we going to talk about Master and Commander?
Exactly. Donovan represents that population.
I'm sorry. It's so good. It should have been 10 movies.
My final check-in, just for listeners to know what's on, if it's for them or not. It's Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, Tatiana Maslany and Jake Johnson on Apple TV. And in our text messages, we've tossed some possible interest around for this one. It's aired 3 or 4 episodes. Someone might have to correct me on that. And
I'll look it up for you.
yeah, it's Tatiana Maslany and Jake Johnson are a divorced couple, and she's privy to a crime. That's the first 5 minutes. It's tense. It's interesting. It's well acted. I'll say that it's so well acted by Maslany that I think I have some things figured out. And I'm not a viewer who tries to guess what's coming next. I'm usually too busy digesting what's in a particular frame or scene at the moment and try to soak that in. But here, Maslany's so good that I think I'm certain I know something that is to be revealed. I don't know, though. I haven't seen headlines. I haven't seen any kind of writing that would hint that I'm on the right path. But that doesn't hinder watching it. And I think a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment out of this specific type of character as a divorced mom who's doing some smart and not so smart things on occasion. And it's pretty fun so far. 35 minutes each episode. I'm always a fan of leaning toward the shorter episodes.
I'm going to watch this one. And I think my wife is also a big fan of Tatiana Maslany. So that it's almost enough. We're grown up, so we only have so much time, right? But it's almost enough to watch something sight unseen because she's so good in everything I've ever seen her in.
Yeah, she's really good here.
I believe it.
She's enjoyable. You guys want to touch on Hacks from HBO in non-spoilers at all?
Do you like
I mean,
to laugh?
I kind of riffed on it last week, and now
Yeah.
Donovan is nearly halfway through this final season.
You want to put it in spoilers?
We can see. I kind of did it last week, but Donovan, what do you make of this season? We know it's the final one.
I don't think I have anything for spoilers, really. I do think that they have done something really good and really interesting by taking the arc of the two leads' relationship to the place where it should have been going instead of kind of janking it around just for drama.
That was an exhausting thing last season, was the flip-flop every other episode of we're back together, no we're not, we hate each other.
There
Was it a dip in
is
season 3 then?
What's that?
Did it dip a little in season 3?
I know, because the overall arc was still compelling enough, but it did start to feel tedious to me.
that's
That's
kind of
just
what
me, though.
that's what I liked, is that they were like, we've already done this, and they have like the audience is respected enough to be like, hey, you know the journey these two have been on together. You know the way that they've grown or not grown together. There's also a Arrested Development level magician joke in this series.
It's very good.
All I could say after seeing that scene was, where does the lighter fluid come from?
I find it hard sometimes to figure out if I'm supposed to be frustrated with a character due to some bad decision making or a lack of growth, or that's just maybe some bad writing, or they didn't have anything else to do with them at that episode.
I've had a genuine, not big, but a debate with a friend over whether the penultimate season of The Americans is bad or not. And I contend it is not bad.
I think it's good.
You are supposed to feel frustrated with the characters. But that it's like you do it too well, then you're just like, I'm just sitting here being frustrated. I don't like this. This is bad.
I don't know if you remember this years ago, Donovan, when you and I first started hanging out. One of my gripes was that Don Draper kept sleeping with a woman. I was like, he constantly sleeps with a woman. When's he ever going to learn? And you're like, that's the point. And I said, oh. And now you're my podcast hero.
That should be it.
Since we're enjoying it, we'll continue now with the series Widow's Bay on Apple TV, which stars Matthew Reese as the mayor of a New England island town where, gosh darn it, he wants more tourists. Can we just get a few more tourists? This week, Apple released 2 episodes of the show. Made sensitive, I think I'll say a little more in spoilers. I won't say why. Adam did start the show, so I'm really eager to hear what he has thought of these first. I guess we're in episode 7 now, aren't we?
Yes.
We only have 3 episodes left of the season, so Adam, take it away.
I started the show either last Sunday or Monday and caught up in a matter of days. And this was
That was a good sign.
the whole house watching,
Balls.
meaning me and Natalie.
And the boy, right?
And then the boy, the dog. This doesn't always, even shows that we enjoy don't always end up doing this. I don't know if it is the right brand of summer fun. For the week after Memorial Day, things kind of feel, we live in a kind of a university town that changes vibe in the summer. It's, it feels a bit like Finding Jaws on AMC on the right summer evening. And you want to know more every time. And when they put the font on the screen the first time, it's like, you know what? This is Stephen King. I listened to y'all's thoughts from last week to make sure I didn't get too redundant. I think the only thing that I would disagree with Blaine on is he called it folk horror. I don't think this is folk horror. I think this is adjacent, but it's much more King-esque. I think there's going to probably be, we can get into this in spoilers, but it does strike you a bit more as a throwback monster of the week kind of thing, but with a really good cast that's letting it operate on a different level. And it's funny that y'all brought up Midnight Mass, because I thought of that for several reasons that I'm sure we will touch on. But even before those, the idea of being on an island, something weird happens, it's hard not to draw comparisons there. The difference being, I think there's some good acting in Midnight Mass, but the whole crew here is on a different level. And it feels like it's achieving that thing where you don't have to enjoy the genre necessarily. And I think they're constantly undercutting the genre. I mean, obviously it's
the genre.
And that's when things get good. I do think it's somehow both really funny and scary. And sometimes the funny moment there's a jump scare in the most recent episode that's a moment of humor.
Yes.
And I think
That's amazing.
can you all think of that many times that happens?
I have been just consistently through. I'd say I guess it would be episode 6 is probably the least funny episode they've done.
Yeah.
And yet there are like genuinely laugh out loud parts,
There really were.
and I'm like, that's hard to do that without making it, while also having the drama still dramatic and serious. That's tough.
I'm notorious on this podcast for saying I don't laugh out loud. It takes a lot. It takes just really some pure slapstick comedy, maybe. But I had a laugh out loud moment in this most recent episode where I heartily chuckled, I suppose.
There's a couple good ones. And I think it is the cast too. Even the people I didn't know, there's a lot of familiar faces. We get, what's his face? Crumb from Somebody Somewhere. Obviously, we have Matthew Reese. We have
Jim
Stephen
Hiller.
Root. Thank you. I couldn't think of his name. But then people I didn't know. I had never really seen Kate O'Flynn in anything before. She's hilarious.
She's so good.
She's absolutely one of my favorite characters. She's
Yeah.
perfect.
I think
How much does it pain Apple that they can't use their iPhones to talk to one another? In this
I
series?
love that.
Isn't that great that they're based off the landline?
I was about to say something about the world building happening here that I don't suppose is spoiler. To say, a lot of the time you go to an island by episode 3 or say minute 25 in a film, you can know all the players. They've really made the island big enough that like you can still have new characters and they can go to new places, and they do clever things like there's no cell service, so everybody's checking their answering machine and using land, and it just feels like, I mean, it is out of time, but it lets them do, when they do an homage to a classic film or something like that, it doesn't feel like, why don't you just text the person that you're, you know what I mean? They managed to slice a lot of that away in this clever format.
Does it surprise any of you that the showrunner, Katie Dippold, worked on Parks and Rec?
No. It's got that kind of dry sense of humor.
You can see the DNA from one.
I see it for sure.
And even our heroes are like connected via local government in some way, and you get the inner workings of some of the scenes. I need you to stay all day, so that sounds good. I got to leave at 3. This could be from the Pawnee Parks and Recreation Department for sure.
Matthew Reese is so good. He's doing so many different things here, but I genuinely enjoy him as the mayor constantly trying not to blow his top, which is, and I will say another thing I really like about the writing, and I think Matthew Reese's performance, and I think this can be said of other characters too, is that exasperated mayor trying to blow his top is not the only thing he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's real. I think it's good when you have characters that have facets and you see how those different facets display.
They do such fast character studies and they're so good that I think you don't even notice them. And I guess we won't get into the specifics of that, but there are people with I think if you tallied up their screen time, it would be surprisingly low on the minute count that you feel like have contributed significantly or that you know something about. And that's such it makes me think that they know everything. There's probably some binder with hundreds of pages on the backstory of all of these people, because you almost have to do that to be able to pull off that tip of the iceberg thing.
It feels like even smaller characters like the waitress that Loftus doesn't like, or the guy that runs the inn. I think you're kind of like, it's like you said, Adam, he's been probably in 10 minutes of screen time, but like he's making me laugh every time I see him because.
Well, and even the waitress, you learn something about the island because you think, why should she care? She's been stuck here her entire life. And you start thinking about all of these things that if there's a version of this that it doesn't walk all of these tightropes well, and people maybe just turn into like they're quirky for quirky's sake or whatever it is, but all the characters feel very realized.
This is the thing that people there was like a spate of movies in the 90s that are not good, that were trying to be Pulp Fiction. And the thing is that they were basically, they would do that where it was just like, oh, it's quirky for quirky. It's like, okay, there has to be a point. I do not enjoy just watching a bundle of eccentricities unless there is some sort of point to it.
We'll even say, this isn't a spoiler, but the priest and Matthew Reese's interaction I think it's in the first episode.
Yeah.
That's a great example of he's picking up food. Priest is like, do you want to come by? And we'll figure it another time. And you learn so much about how all of these people are related by those little interactions and experiences.
For me, it goes back to the Russo brothers working on Community, which had to be an ensemble piece in order to work. And then they took those skills over to the Avengers movies and made the best Avengers movies so well. It's really not the genre that matters as much as dealing with what elements of the story needs to shine and how to work those in. Because it's funny, when I first heard about Widow's Bay and then I found out it was going to be ran by Dippold, who was, I might be saying her name wrong, and she worked on Parks and Rec, I thought, oh, okay, well, I hope it's just not a ridiculous comedy, because it sounds like it's got potential, but it doesn't really matter because a good show is going to be a good show.
And I think my initial concern with it was like, is it going to be dragged down by being a monster of the week? I think that fear of mine has been laid to rest. This is one that I look forward to watching every week.
I also had that concern. by episode 2 or 3. And so maybe, and it still felt like they were pushing something bigger, something overall was going to happen. And obviously they've delivered on that, but
It manages to do that both. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking about comedy and horror. It manages to be a monster of the week and have a strong through line.
Yeah. Which, and I do think, having watched more of it, the monster of the week thing has been, there's a little bit for me as the viewer of having your cake and eating it too, where it's like, we can have the through line, but we can also do a fun one-off, like the fun one-off thing
Yeah.
that centers an episode. And I'm like, okay, I enjoy this. It adds to my sense of fun watching it.
Thoroughly agree. Let's take a break here. And on the back half, we'll talk about much more. Many interviews can ramble, or maybe the host asks the same questions you've all heard answered. Not with Short Takes. Not only does Short Takes have the guests you want to know more about, but also the summer series manages to go in depth with just 4 questions. Back again this summer, Short Takes will air new episodes each Friday on the YouTube channel for the Alabama Take. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll know exactly when each episode of Short Takes premieres. Yeah, we're going to pick back up with Widow's Bay is the only thing in spoilers this week, but it's plenty. They give us 2 episodes this week. Adam's still relatively new to the series. Did you guys know if you Google Widow's Bay, it'll give "Did you mean?" the "Did you mean?" question? Will say, "Did you mean the next Martha's Vineyard and definitely not cursed?" Not cursed.
does it actually do that?
Yeah,
That's
I saw
funny.
that on Reddit. I didn't know if it was like that's very good.
it is good. So 2 episodes this week, and the first is What We Saw Coming. It's almost solely a flashback to 1702, where Sarah Westcott becomes Sarah Warren, the wife to Lord Protector of the island, Richard Warren. And from the cold open last week, he was the man struggling to find food in the snow, eats the mushrooms. That's what we thought. Any thoughts on this being a flashback episode? For me, it's a great way to break up some of the action in present day.
This is where I paused and yelled, screamed, because I don't know a lot about this, but I know a passing amount of. There's a moment when she's walking through the town, and there's a graveyard on her right, and if you look, you can see a rectangular gravestone. You're not seeing that shit till the 1820s. Absolute, couldn't suspend my disbelief anymore. Just
You were out.
ridiculous.
Is that
You were-
true?
don't- you were
Don't
there
you know
through
they're
this-
braves?
You were there through the sea hag, everything.
That stuff happens. I live in
Yeah.
New England.
It's a documentary.
Yeah. At first, I was like, we'll see how this goes, because it does break up. And by the end of it, honestly, when they changed the font for the
Made it the more colonial style horror.
I was like, oh, okay, they know exactly what they're doing. And it probably, I think, as I alluded to earlier, probably like the least funny of all the episodes so far, yet with some like really funny moments too. It's like, that's such a good balance.
Yeah, I agree. Did you get a sense of the witch in one?
Oh, like a hint, maybe.
Yeah, a dab.
Although the witch is different. Here's what I'll say. I didn't get it. The witch is different because Egger's people are cast out from the community. And we do still have the community here. So it's more, honestly, it's not the same thing, but even like there's echoes of Salem witch trials, things like that.
It does make you want to know more, at least it did me, about the nature of, like, why would you go to this island? Are these people, have they all been cast out? What is the point of the seclusion happening there? And why have they given this power to, you got to know, you can't give power to Hamish Linklater. You know what I mean?
Have we learned nothing?
This is, come on, guys. Have they not seen TV?
This is Midnight Mass 101.
He apparently sold his soul to the devil while in the midst of starvation. Helps him to feed the island. Apparently the island needs death in order to keep this bond going. And he claims to do it to keep his children safe. even going to to lengths to kill his own wife, as one does.
Who do you love more?
But it immediately made me think of Tom doing all he can to keep Evan safe in
Yeah.
modern day.
Sure. I mean, they're immediately set up as mirrors, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And how much of that is his story going to look like Richard Warren's? I'm not saying Tom killed his wife, but I believe he's going to have to face a lot more to protect Evan as the story moves on.
Yeah.
By the
and-
time we leave these 2 episodes, we have many questions about the missing wife.
Yes. And it definitely seems, I don't think anything necessarily like nefarious is happening, but definitely like with Loftus, but definitely like your natural desire to protect has maybe warped and is harming instead of helping.
All along, so as someone who watched all of it last week and missed people, I got my answer fairly fast because I could just watch the next episode.
Yeah.
Thinking through Loftus, is he early on shown to be so dismissive of everything because he knows it's true and it drives him insane that his family is trapped in this cycle and he's powerless to do anything about it. And I think as time goes on, it's like, yeah, that's obviously what's happening here. It's Donovan, I thought you had a great few lines last week talking about the yelling match that he gets in with his son and like how that impacted both of them. That he's not only wanting his son to act right because he's the mayor and the mayor's kid has the microscope on him, but he also just wants to keep him alive. There's this existential threat that he can't really talk about out there, which is I'm not a parent, but it does seem like a fairly obviously dramatized version of like, you can't see everything right now. You have a limited view and I'm just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Which again is a credit to what we've said about the show, that it's not only doing horror comedy, it's making you think about things like that.
And I thought this isn't popping up as much now, but yeah, Matthew Rhys and the performance and the writing I thought he was great as a guy who believed everything, but could not acknowledge that he believed, right? He desperately did not want it to be true. He was constantly like, but when his lizard brain would revert to like, yep, that's the sea hag.
Yeah, and how quick he is to absolutely lose his shit. Once confronted with the thing, he's like rolling around on the beach or yelling, please don't go out into the fog or whatever.
Yeah,
Which does not bode well for the idea that the island itself can feel fear in men and take advantage of that, as he's told by Wick.
Yes.
I was also thought maybe it's because I've been thinking about America at large and possibly our original sins as we go towards 250 years of existing, but this is getting out there a little bit.
Bring it.
And I was talking Faulkner with a friend and how Sound and the Fury and Absalom taken together, I think, are so much about how you can't run away from the original sin, the compromise that you made, and how they use these two families to show eventually it comes back to bite you and there's this Southern Gothic downfall. And what Faulkner was saying, because he's tying in like Haiti and the Caribbean and the fabric of America. So are they trying to say something about the desperation of going to an inhospitable place and the deals that you make with evil to stay there? I don't think so. I think this is just me projecting something that was already
I think
in
that's
my
kinda
head.
fair.
But I was thinking about it this morning, how built into so many, Donovan can speak more on this, I'm sure, like survival of initial waves of pilgrims, explorers, whatever the deal with the devil may have been.
And I do think we're asked to think about those things, especially with the Puritan episode, especially so many people who were in small communities initially set out there in what they'd call the howling wilderness. A lot of times, they had to make deals with the Native Americans, not devil's deals, but just like they were alive because the Native Americans allowed them to be alive. And then let's just say things go south eventually. Like we have the Pequot War in Connecticut, which was the end of the Pequot tribe. We had King Philip's War. And so I think Adam's got it there, right? Is like those wars brought out things in the Puritans that they were themselves shocked and disturbed by, that they were doing to have power, control their communities, all this kind. You have government, all that kind of stuff. And I think anytime they're jumping us back to 17, whatever like that, I think we're meant to think about it at least a little bit.
When it comes to the Puritans and that many of the colonizers at that point, Native Americans weren't literally the devil, but that was how they were referenced, the heathens.
Yeah, something
The
I
savages.
found this.
But yeah, when I say deal with the devil too, like you're making some deal to access your own brutality, not anything
yeah.
exterior.
That's one. Yeah, that's one. I thought was very fair here.
Exactly. This is a complete side note, but I learned this a couple of years ago, and I'm fascinated. It's the word swamp did not come into the English language until English folks in North America, and the Puritans were completely confused by swamps. They thought they were like dark, horrible places. They were like all the Native Americans live in them. They could not figure them out, and I think we smartly see like that, some of that confusion echoed in Widow's Bay here.
Yeah, go back to any of that Hawthorne style of text or era of text,
Yeah.
and you've got the wilderness is the devil, basically.
Yeah, it will kill you. If it rains too much, your crops fail. If it rains
Yeah.
too little, they fail. If it's too cold, people just start dying, all this stuff. That line of, I think they maybe even undersold the idea of he eats the mushrooms because some people were eating corpses and other people were eating dirt.
Yeah,
That is true horror.
it is. It wasn't an episode full of humor, like Donna has pointed out, but having Betty Gilpin as Sarah Warren helps when you need that balance of
Very good.
humor and serious tone.
There was the bit where she comes to the league that's conspiring to kill her husband, and she's like freaking out. She's like, "Do it! Go get him!" That was great.
The follow up to that is that she's laying in the bed and the idiot comes in
That
to
was
stab the husband, and
hilarious.
she has to point to which one the husband is. It's him.
That
It's
was
not me.
that was so unexpected. And then coupled with gore, it just
Yeah.
really as like as comic relief, really.
Doesn't she even say to the townspeople when she's trying to flee the island, I don't even know these kids.
Yeah.
Like I
Just
just,
leave them.
Because they say, aren't you concerned about your children? And she said,
don't
she's
even
like,
know
I just met them.
Yeah, that was it.
That was
I did-
funny.
There's good job of maintaining this motif of misogyny that the town is known for in its past, and it creeps into the folklore of the present. Sarah's there because she's getting too old to marry and probably has to settle for Richard or betrothed to Richard because of that, whom she hadn't even met before the episode begins.
yeah, those scenes were so claustrophobic. There's moments in the modern day island where you think, oh, there's a lot of people who live here. They seem to have vibrant social lives, blah, blah, blah. That one where she shows up and it's already less than ideal. And then
And
the
it's
first two
dark.
people that she meets are like, the guy driving the buggy seems to be a fan of her future husband, but everybody else, yeah, they're kind of like, yeah, good luck.
And
Little wary.
feel for what he's done.
Did you guys catch when the episode first started, I thought, are they going to have the actors play their ancestors as you're slowly making your way through the town? Because the guy driving the buggy looks so much like the stoner friend that's always driving the teenagers around.
I
didn't make that connection. That's good.
He's got the long hair, the same kind of. I haven't looked to see if it's the same actor or not, but I had a brief moment of, oh, are they going to do one of these where Matthew Rhys is going to show up in
Right.
some costume that Donovan can pick apart with his authentic knowledge?
Look, I'm just saying, if you've been asked to leave as many graveyards as I have, you pick up a thing or two about carving styles. And that rectangular carving style came out of Boston, spread through most of gravestone innovations, started in Boston and spread throughout New England. And you're really not going to see it till the 1820s or 30s. So I turned off my TV in disgust.
There you have it, folks.
Maybe they had an innovator.
God damn it, Blaine, they didn't.
The second of the 2 episodes this week is the 7th overall. It's titled Seasickness. It was almost a full piece of foreshadowing because the past literally comes back to haunt them with Richard Warren. He was never dead at all. He's buried alive. And he stayed alive for 300 some odd years. That's not bad for a bit of fasting.
Was
Intermittent my ass.
this episode was where both Reese, Hamish Linklater, and Kato Flynn really showed.
Oh, yeah.
Especially just the constant, like, Kate O'Flynn's character constantly undercutting, like, this really scary stuff that's going on.
And that was the jump scare Adam was talking about in the non-spoilers, right?
Hilarious.
I thought the funniest one to me, were you talking about purse scene?
Yes.
Yeah, like she's opening the door and
I forgot my purse.
That was good, but when they're not sure that he can talk, already Loftus is like,
yes.
and I thought the way that they did this, and Blaine, you alluded to this, and I think maybe it's what you're going to say, is that releasing these two together makes a lot of sense because flashback episode, great. But if I had been a week-to-week person at that point and not immediately got to check in on our leads, I would have been frustrated.
A little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
It makes sense that they did both, but to end with they hit the coffin,
Yeah.
what's going to happen, and then to just immediately start, let's not bury the lead here.
Yeah.
There's the coffin. Where's he? Oh, he's upstairs.
He's upstairs.
Isn't that great? That they
That was so good.
You didn't have to plow through that stuff, though it could have been interesting.
Oh,
But
but
when
it was hilarious the way they presented it. Yeah.
The jump scare was when Loftus goes up there and he has the notepad, and they're like, he'll only communicate this way. And then when Hamish Linklater finally makes a noise, and Matthew Rhys, the acting is so good. He's so horrified at the noise that happens, and it's so unexpected, but he is trying to hold it together. It's great.
And both times he's writing the note, Reese is so slowly giving that notepad to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just keep thinking he's going to grab his arm at any moment.
Right.
It wasn't even an essential gag, but they would, like, the notepad was cracking me up because there's a bit as he's flipping through.
Have I done something to offend
Yeah.
you?
Are you mad at me? Yeah.
Patricia wrote, "Are you mad at me?" within minutes of meeting a ghost figure.
I think it's also important.
That's good.
That is some very Parks and Rec style writing that works perfectly here too.
We also got to zoom out and think about a lot has happened in just a few days here. Like,
Yes.
when she finally sees the sheriff and he's like, I have to take you in for questioning for leading a bunch of people into the ocean last night.
Yes, again. And I was talking about the past coming back to haunt someone. That does feel like something that Evan and Tom are going to have to face together. You know, their past coming back to haunt them in some way or another. Matthew Rhys has played up the role to this point as being a man who's both frightened and eager to help Evan do whatever it takes. And you got to think that his wife's story is going to play into that, of course. Richard Warren's buried alive. The boogeyman was also buried alive.
It's true.
I would be interested to see if they tie those together or if those are separate things. Because the boogeyman has been built up by now.
I would say if they don't bring that in, it's going to be a massive failure.
It almost feels like a final piece of conflict for Tom, Wick, Patricia, and the sheriff. That seems like maybe where they're going with the boogeyman. I don't know.
Well,
I
it has
wonder.
to tie into the choices like, what will you do to protect the majority of people? It's like, will you let this thing loose to, well, what's the worst that could happen if a few tourists disappear and we get to leave in peace? They've got to bring back, they've talked about witches a few times, right?
Yes.
And Patricia was very easily able to do whatever she did at her party.
With their book.
Yeah, and they're setting up all of these ideas of lineage. He was inheriting things from Widow's Bay's past. When she throws that book in that fire, her hand's in that damn flame. That's all I'm saying.
Interesting. And another thing the show hasn't returned to, it says from the opening episode, there's an electric chair beneath that restaurant. Is that the same chair that's in those tunnels under the Historical Society building and turned into an electric chair?
I think that these are the same tunnels that we see in the flashback episode. and we
those are
see a
just-
chair, and I think that those tunnels have been, as someone who watched it quick, they're very clearly the same place
Yeah.
that has been kept up all
And the
along.
Yeah.
Reverend visited that well the night he died.
So somebody that went from torches to lights, they put in a more modern
Electricity.
chair. I don't know if that's an electric chair as much as it's modernized restraints.
Okay, could be.
Yeah, like you'd see it in the popular horror imagination of an asylum.
Yeah, it does. It's reminiscent of that for sure. I love the effect on Hamish Linklater's voice when he does finally speak. It gave an ample amount of creepiness, but it also made for some. This is where I laughed out loud, and I think I had to pause it from laughing. Is when Tom reveals he's not going to let him out of the coffin, and they go back and forth with some "fuck you, fuck," and that had me on the floor almost when he said "fuck you, fuck off."
There was another bit where this is just the comedy, like when Reese is trying to convince Wick to let him out. He's like, already dead.
Oh, that was so good.
That was so well played.
And so in character.
Oh, it was so
That's like
good.
Loftus 101 is, I've seen people say like he does lie a lot, Loftus, but
Yes.
it's usually like he's attempting to do white lies to help people.
Yes.
He withholds information even more than he lies.
Yes.
And like that,
Yeah.
that idea of, because letting him out was weakness in some ways. It was kindness in other ways, but
And another quick comedic moment that they don't even acknowledge, but it's still funny. They don't just let him out; they feed him.
Vienna
Oh,
sausages.
Tom-
him
feeds
crushing those Vienna sausages and
So disgusting.
yeah, Tom like gagging, doing like the drag.
Yeah. So he's not only nice enough to let him out, but he gives him some food. I feel sorry for the sheriff. Got to be honest. He's putting in his week's notice. He's done. And I feel sorry for him because he's had to put up with a lot of shit. in
He
these
clearly
fights. Like Adam
has.
pointed out, this has been a 3-day span at most, maybe 4.
It's always good when someone in law enforcement that you're supposed to like announces that they're leaving the force, right?
I suppose so, yeah.
That's good for their longevity. I listened to a podcast that was only talking about Widow's Bay this morning, and one of the hosts has a theory that there's like a lot. I'd already arrived at this. There's a lot of time stuff going on, right? It shows us that there is in the hotel.
Yep.
Episodes 2 and 3 happen simultaneously or happening simultaneously. And then the thing in the hotel where there is like a absence of time almost or
Right. Or like-
long.
How long has the owner really been in there?
Right.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Another creepy but funny scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things like he's looking at the chart in the first episode, and it's like he's 37 or whatever he was supposed to be. But an old man's laying in front of him. He's like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
And ages come up, and something weird going on with time. And this guy had some sort of theory that time is this malleable thing. I think he said time travel, which I don't know if I buy that, but that somehow the sheriff's wife, who we've never seen, will have some relation to Tom's wife, if not be Tom's wife.
Find it fascinating we haven't seen her. And are you saying that time is a flat circle?
Possibly. I also think if you take that read and you look at how the sheriff interacts with Evan, it becomes fairly paternal.
Yes.
Now, maybe he's just a good guy. I think he's shown that too.
It's
But
probably one of those two. Yeah, you're supposed to take away he's a good guy or that he's paternal or both. Yeah, sure.
But why does he show up right at the time when Evan is potentially about to make a fatal mistake and going into that house? Interesting. I don't know that I buy all of that, but I definitely buy that time is doing something weird and they haven't addressed that yet.
Same.
I agree. And that plays well with what has happened, may happen with Tom's wife, too.
Do you think Tom's wife is still alive?
Yeah, I think so. At this point, yeah. As much as we're not in the speculation business, I do think that.
It forces it, right? At the end of the episode where they zoom in and you realize one child came back.
Yeah, on the painting. And people have another speculation, we'll might as well throw them all out there, is that Wick doesn't return to the boat with a preserver. They even think that his actions were questionable. I don't know. I think that's kind of the way Wick acted all along.
I read him that something weird was going on as I watched it.
You did?
He was a little too kind to
That was
Loftus.
their saying. Yeah, that was what they said, that he was too harsh and then too kind immediately. I'll tell you who I'm the most suspicious of. Evan's love interest. Even
Yes.
the nosiest of teens don't dig around in their dates'
Yeah.
dad's belongings. That came out of nowhere. She has to be a teenage version of the Sea Hag or something.
Something
Or-
like that.
Or maybe she's just a bad kid. Because she
She's
is a bad kid.
I would-
But that does feel like she's like a tempting figure.
she's a
like-
temptress.
That's what yeah. And interestingly, not sexually, but with this, like, don't you want to know what your dad's hiding from you?
I mean, the
Tom's
brooch has to be somewhere in that house, right?
I assume.
Yeah. I think so. Tom makes an exerted effort to save Wick, by kicking him. Another example of funny and serious at the same time.
That was fast thinking. He was a genuine hero there.
Yeah.
It was great. But I like that it shows something about Tom that we've known all along. It just reinforces it. That he's irritated by the town, but he also wants the best. Maybe selfishly, but he does try to do the best by people.
I keep thinking about when he reveals that he ran uncontested. Have y'all discussed this in previous
No, we
episodes, what that
haven't,
could
no.
mean? Because if Wick and everybody like him, now the question that's being asked is like, if the spell is technically, or the evil is broken now, does that mean, could Wick leave the island? Or
Right.
is everyone a descendant? Because when you keep the gene pool small, eventually everyone would be a descendant. What is that? How is that going to play out? Obviously, there's still more episodes to go, but if everyone in the town knows things like Wick in his teenage years didn't abide by the curfew and they went out and had this horrifying encounter. If everybody in town has some version of that story or connection to it, and they know what the Lord Protector is supposed to do, they're like, I'm not doing that job. Get the
Yeah.
guy who wasn't born here to do it. He doesn't know any better.
Yeah. I
Well,
agree.
And
I mean,
also
is he
the
being set
sheriff's
up as a
duties,
fall
he's
man
not from there.
in some way? Yeah, exactly.
He's mentioned that he's not from Widow's Bay, which is basically Martha's Vineyard. I think that's it for us this week. I'm always appreciative of Donovan and Adam's time, and for our listeners for listening. And for Adam and Donovan, I'm Blaine. And look, if you resurrect the dead, if you dig up a dead body, don't feed it. It's just going to get stronger.
But if you
Yeah.
have to, Viennese sausages, big hit.
Love that southern pronunciation there. Have a nice week, everyone.